After I'd had a big night drinking, I was laying in the bed hungover. My boy rattled his little finger in my face and he just went, "Dad, can you stop drinking silly drink?" That was the last time I ever touched alcohol. So Sobah came about as part of my ongoing live journey. We produce non-alcoholic craft beer to raise independent funds to work in the drug and alcohol and mental health space, particularly with at-risk youth. We're uniquely Australian. We're an Aboriginal owned and managed business and all our products are infused with different native fruits, spices or botanicals. For us to all live on this planet, Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander enterprises can be innovators and leaders by turning back and working our ways.
That's really a brilliant little intro. There's so much more to say about it, and I'm so excited to be able to welcome our next guest. It is Dr. Clinton Schultz. I don't know if I should say doctor all the time. It might scare the crap out of people. Go, wow, this guy is the doctor. But you are a doctor. It's something to be. It's your title. Welcome to the show, Clinton.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, friends. Yes.
Thanks for joining us. And who have you got in there joining you in the seat today?
This is my little man, Waylon. Given it's only 6:30 in the morning up here in beautiful Queensland, he's like my shadow at this time of the day. So
he's part of the process.
That's it.
And thanks for joining us today, mate. I know you got to run off and head off later today, but thanks for squeezing us in very last minute. I've been meaning to talk to you for a long time, and you're doing some brilliant things. We chatted to Sammy from Sobah, mate, who alerted me to the great things that you do as well. But I guess tell us a little bit about your journey and also how it leads into Sobah. I really want to bang on about this non-alcoholic beverage company and the powers of being Indigenous-led and all that jazz. But tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, for sure. So as you heard in the little clip that you just played, I used to rely heavily on drugs and alcohol as my coping mechanism. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, like many people do, and I guess the way that I'd found to deal with a lot of that was through drugs and alcohol. It's kind of what I seen was easy, what was available, and so that's what I sort of fell into. And I was in that pattern for a long period of time, and I never really considered myself as having a problem as such, but I guess it was problematic for plenty of people around me, and yeah, it was over 6 years ago now since I stopped drinking. But my boy, who's now 12 and a half, he was 6 at the time, so a little bit older than this one here, and he came to me on one morning and just put it straight on me and just said, "Dad, can you stop drinking silly drink?" Because that's what they called it, because I used to act silly, I guess, when I'd been drinking, and I just sort of looked at him and said, "Yeah, you've got me. Yeah, I can." So that was the beginning of, I guess, my own personal sobriety. And I'd had a few things happen at that time. I'd had a few really good mates that had sort of gone to jail for different things, and so I was really starting to reflect quite heavily on life. I had a child now, and I didn't want them to, I guess, grow up thinking that a lot of the stuff that I thought was normal was actually normal. So a long process of self-reflection, and I decided to stop drinking. But I just love beer. I love the flavor of beer. Like, I've never once, since the day I stopped drinking, I've never actually missed alcohol or being intoxicated, but I really love the flavor of beer. So I was trying a lot of the non-alcoholic beers that were around, and they were just ordinary, to be honest.
Yeah, right. What was around? I don't even know what else was around. It's rubbish. Was it from the alcoholic companies?
Yeah, so there was a couple of imported ones from different beer manufacturers in Germany, and then I guess here in Australia we had the good old Cooper's one that's been around for about 3 decades, and probably hasn't done much to give non-alc beer, a good name as being a quality, tasteful product over the time. I think people's tastes have changed slightly over the last few years now that 100%. They've become more accustomed to non-alc beers. But yeah, back then it was, people kind of just looked at you funny. So I started sort of mucking around making non-alc for myself. And we had a food truck at the time, and we thought, well, this would be pretty deadly to sell and match up with the food, because it was all traditional foods and bush tucker that we were doing in the food truck, and we thought it'd be a good thing to have in there. So we started with it just on keg, on tap in our little food truck, and we had a lot of people coming up asking if they could get takeaways, and we're like, well, not really.
Yeah.
So we literally would have people coming up with their own bottles, empty Coke bottles or growlers,
Yeah, right.
asking if they could get takeaways. So it got the wheels turning for Lozen, my wife and I, to start thinking about there might be a chance for this to be its own sort of standalone little business. But we didn't want it to just be something that was, I guess, just about filling our own pockets. We thought it was a great avenue to do a whole bunch of good. So raise anything from raising awareness about the problems that Australia has with drug and alcohol, particularly alcohol and socialisation, through to raising the awareness of the positive aspects of our beautiful cultures as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
There's a real stigma around First Nations people and alcohol. I'm sure you've had many conversations just being an Indigenous man and also dealing with booze. How do you talk about it when someone comes in a bit hot with a topic like, oh, yeah, but why don't you send this up to remote communities and help them out, or those kind of conversations? And I'm sure you would be on the front line of that. What's your discussion around that? It's great that you just mentioned that Australia has not just First Nations people. Can you tell us a little bit about that whole scenario?
Yeah, for sure. One of the first things a lot of people do say is, oh, this would be great out in those communities. And I go, what do you mean, those communities? Like, I live here on the Gold Coast. Find me a community that's got a bigger problem with alcohol in Australia than the Gold Coast. So it's an education process, I think. It's, there's unfortunately for us as Aboriginal peoples, what most people are exposed to through mainstream media is deficit discourse. So all they ever hear is some of the negative things that may occur in some of our communities from time to time. Yeah. People don't have the opportunity to be exposed to all the positive and beautiful aspects of Aboriginal society and culture and of our ways of knowing and being. And I hope that we can sort of promote that through what we do. And because I truly believe that our ways as First Nations peoples collectively and globally are the way forward for humanity. I think that Western society has proven itself to be problematic for our well-being and this beautiful planet that we live on, well-being. And I think most of the answers are already there in our First Nations ways of knowing and being, and we just need people to start listening to that. So I take every opportunity as an opportunity to help educate. I used to get really angry, probably back when I was drinking and was less tolerant. I was quite feisty and very defensive. And I think part of that was probably my own guilt that I was actually living what people were stereotypically perceiving and not really knowing how to deal with that myself. So I think a lot of my anger and frustration at it back then was probably a bit of personal frustration and guilt. So these days I'm a lot more tolerant and take it as an education opportunity.
Do you get a lot of people, other than swapping alcoholic beer for non-alcoholic beer, what other things do you find that support? I would only assume that just providing someone with an alternative product is not going to stop someone from getting off the grog. What other things did you find helpful for you, other than finding a substitute? And what other things do you suggest to other people that are trying to really kind of slow down and change their relationship with alcohol?
For me, it was just making the decision, like actually making the decision for myself that I wanted the change. Change only happens when you actually want it. You can have everybody in the world, everybody else around you, be it your partners, your family, professionals like myself saying you need to change. Until you actually flick that switch and decide that you want to do it, then it's probably not going to occur. For me, it was flipping that switch and being able to really root that in some positive meanings. And for me, that was wanting something different for my kids. I want the best for them. So if I want the best for them, I have to be the best version of me that I can be. So that's what it was for me. I think that'll be different for other people, but being able to find positive coping strategies to help, I guess, replace the negative coping strategies that they are using from time to time is really important as well. You know, it's really, we all need to cope. We all have adversity. Yeah. We all have stress in our lives all day, every day. Many people experience more than others. So we all need coping strategies when we need to cope. So if we are able to find those positive replacements for some of the more negative ones that we're using, we stand a better chance.
You're also a health professional, and you've been noted that in the public eye as well. What health benefits do you expect when people drop booze? Like instantly, I mean, obviously long term, but you know, what are some things to look forward to, and maybe even shed some light on? You might be in a straitjacket for a day or two. I don't know. I haven't, you know, what kind of health benefits did you notice and you're aware of?
Probably the first thing was the time that I got back. I wasn't wasting time getting drunk or trying to recover from being drunk. Yeah. So just having that extra time back in my life made the world of difference. Also sleep, you know, like I was getting proper sleep. So I wasn't out partying all night, or I wasn't having, you know, broken sleep from being all rushed with sugar and alcohol, basically. So getting proper sleep, getting time back in my life made massive amounts of difference. You know, for many people, there'll be, you know, noticing that the weight that they'll be able to shift quite easily. Alcohol puts a stupid amount of weight on people. And so it's one of the easiest things to kind of change in our lives if we're trying to watch weight. There's a raft of benefits. You know, I'm 41 now, and I'm the healthiest and fittest I've ever been in my life. So, no, I'm doing crazy things now. Like I'm competing in Ninja Warrior comps, and I'm going to do an ultra marathon in a few months, and I'm just doing stuff that there's no way I would have been able to do in my 20s. So
that's brilliant. What's the market been like? I don't think it's super popular to say, hey, do you want to? I'm going to bring over my non-alcoholic beers, or hey, local pub, do you want to put on my local beer range? How have you found your product being received from a commercial sense?
It's really changed in the last 6 months. So we've been going for 3.5 years. The first 3 years was hard work, trying to shift the general Australian mentality and acceptance around non-alcoholic products as being something that could actually be good and could be decent replacements for adult beverages. In the last 6 months, there's been a real snowball, which has been great to see. And I think there's been a few things that have added to that. I think actually COVID has helped our sector. As funny as that may sound, I think it gave people a lot of time for self-reflection.
Yep.
And many people have decided, you know, to make better lifestyle choices in the time that they've had locked away in their own lives over the last 12 months. So I think that actually has really helped with our sector and hopefully with community in general. I think that time of self-reflection and really looking at what's most important in our lives and how do we maintain connections even through adversity has been great. So
you highlight something that did change, and I've never really thought of it as honestly as this is. Usually we drink socially. So in COVID, we've had to unsocialize a bit. We're in our little rooms, and you don't really sit there and drink around your family. It's usually triggered by I'm leaving the house, going to a function, going to the pub to watch the footy, going to a mate's house for lunch. So you bring over a 60, or you might bring a slab if you're going to share something with your mates, or you're bringing over a bottle of wine. But you remove the social side of things, and then you're pretty honest about it. You realise that you're doing it socially.
Yeah, sure. It's become so normalised that we don't even realise, you know, you go to a 1-year-old birthday party and people are socially drinking. And it's acceptable. And every occasion it seems that alcohol is involved when we're involved with interactions with other human beings, pretty much outside of the workplace. And even then at 5 o'clock, you go to your after work drinks. I think that isolation has led people to look at why am I drinking? And that's one of the keys in changing the pattern, is really looking at why am I drinking? What am I drinking? and what am I actually trying to achieve out of that? And I guess when you're just socializing, you're not really taking the time to be mindful of those types of questions. Whereas maybe when you're sitting on the couch by yourself, you're like, wow, like why aren't I just having a lime soda water right now while I watch maths? You know?
Is that your life these days? Is it? Lime sodas and maths?
We've been very fortunate up here. You know, in Queensland we've had relative freedom, so it's been nothing like down south for us. And I can only imagine how difficult it's been for people down there. But in saying that, you know, like Melbourne's been one of our biggest growth markets over the past 12 months. Incredible. So it again shows that, you know, in the places where the lockdowns have been most harsh over this period, people have still been self-reflecting and making better choices.
Let's talk about the products. We've talked about the story behind it. Let's talk about the products. I mean, I've had a little snoop on your Instagrams, and it looks fresh, fun, palatable, exciting, acceptable. Tell us a little about the product.
Yeah, so we do a range of non-alcoholic beers. So, you know, we've kind of tried to look at styles of beer that are popular in different markets. So here on the East Coast, for instance, you know, everybody loves a particular cerveza, which I'm not going to name drop. Don't want to do any extra promotion for them, and they have a name that doesn't have such a positive connotation these days.
Sure.
But people love putting lime in that. So then we were like, well, let's make a finger lime cerveza. So finger lime's a native fruit from sort of around this area where we are, sort of southeast Queensland, Northern Rivers area. So we thought, oh, this would be cool, and that was what we came up with. I was drinking a lot of pilsners, and I've always really liked a pilsner, so I wanted a non-alc pilsner. So I developed a lemon aspen pilsner. So lemon aspen is a little citrus fruit that comes from Yugambeh country, so up far north Queensland, and it's just super refreshing. Got a nice bit of tartness to it, but goes really well with the pills. So
unreal. You
know, we've tried to map out popular styles of beer and then look at what native produce would really enhance that and give it a real unique flavor. We're not trying to, I guess, compete with regular beers. We know what we do is different, and we're unapologetic in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have very unique flavoring, very unique branding, and a very unique, I guess, outlook and approach to business itself.
Sounds good. I want to order some. How do I do it? How does anyone else do it? Is there local stockists down in? I'm in Geelong at the moment, but do I expect to go into my local Dan Murphy's and find something?
The easiest way to find where we are, that's closest to anybody who's watching or interested, is to go to our website, Sobah.com, and there's a stockist page on there, and it'll list everywhere that we're stocked around the country. We're in, I don't know, probably 500 different venues around the country.
That's incredible.
We also have an online store, so people can order directly through us, and it'll get delivered straight to your door.
Mate, I'm pumped. What should I order if I'm a Carlton drafty? What would I go with?
Mate, if I was you, I'd give the Wattle Seed Gold special release that's on our e-commerce site, on our website, a crack at the moment. So, yeah, I kind of developed that for those that are in that ordinary beer space.
Oh, mate, the world's slowly closing in on me down here, because you go into places now, and I'm definitely on the outer, and I look at taps. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to have taste all your beers before I decide here. But that's really cool. I think your products, it fights, it really answers a problem, which is, I don't know, like embarrassment, or, you know, I'm guessing the product just tastes unbelievable. It sounds like you've spent a fair bit of time in brewing, though. How did you learn about, is it brewing essentially without taking out the beer?
Yeah, we 100% brew. It's the same process as any other beer.
Wow.
It's just a different strain of yeast we used. Everything else is the same. But mate, I to be honest, I was home brewing with my granddad when I was 6 years old. So that side of it's not fresh to me. And I've got a chefing background. So I was a chef before I went back to university. I was a chef for a dozen years, and so the whole the whole food science part of it and the flavor mapping profiling part is quite natural for me as well. So I'm fortunate I've had the opportunity to gain a few skills, good, bad, or different across my lifespan, and they've come in handy in terms of this business.
It's beautiful when you kind of get to a mature age and collect all this riffraff that you've been doing, and it hasn't all gone to waste, which is a great thing to see. Brother, I really appreciate your time today joining us, especially on a Monday and super last minute last night, and I hope you got a beautiful week ahead, and thanks for sharing your journey about Sobah. I'm going to jump online and order some, but thanks for your time, bros.
Gabinindu, thank you very much for having us. I'm off to beautiful Doomadgee this afternoon, so it's going to be a good week.
Oh, beautiful. What's on for the week?
Yeah, I'm going up to do some work with the Preston Campbell Foundation up in the community of Doomadgee, so up in the Cape. We'll work with a bunch of kids up there throughout the week, and yeah, it's going to be good times. I love being out in community, so it's been a while.
Cool.
Because of COVID, so I'm amping to get out there.
Mate, we don't have to go right now. We've got a few. Tell us about that. It sounds like something non-alcohol related. Is that non-sober related?
So I mean, everything is kind of interrelated.
Sure.
So we're, I guess my other business is a consultancy business in the social and emotional well-being space. So
yeah, right.
We partner through Sobah and through my other business, Normally Consultations, with the Preston Campbell Foundation, and together we're going up to run some programs up in conjunction with Doomadgee Council and with the school up there.
Brilliant. So you speak to, I just know you speak to young men. Is that what you dabble with, or a bit of everything?
Yeah, we'll be mostly working with youth this trip. So it'll be it'll be a range. It'll probably be all the kids from primary through to late teens that we'll be hopefully working with. Yeah.
And I saw you do a little bit of work with the EAP, which I'm going to cross-reference you to Support Act. My partner works with Support Act, work heavily with EAP, and she's the First Nations Engagement Officer for Support Act. She'd love to talk to you.
My PhD work was all in worker well-being, so that's another passion of mine. Is I think the more we can look after the workforce, the better workforce we have to look after those in community. So
yeah, love it, brother. I'll let you keep moving. Excited people are on the chat. You can't see it. Excited to try Sobah. There's a fair few people. Karen Ingram loves Sobah. Sandra Squiz, shout out to you. Sobah, what a great interview. We've got a few listeners here that are probably going to tap into your information. Once again, Ledge.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a wonderful week, everyone.
You're a good man. Thanks for your time.